We have a whole generation of believers who don't know how to access grace. They don't know that grace does not come through an institution. Grace does not come through this building. Grace does not come through its decor. Grace comes through a human vessel. If you receive the one I send, you receive me. The grace is in a person. Paul, writing to the church, Philippians 1:7, he said, you are partakers of God's grace in me. He says, the grace of God has been given to me for you. That means I am not just a messenger. My job is to deliver grace to you, and I deliver the grace to you packaged in doctrine. So when the nation of Israel cried out to God under bitter oppression in Egypt, God's solution was a man called Moses. Moses brought the grace. When they were in famine, God's solution again was a man called Joseph. Joseph brought the grace. When you go to the book of Judges, Othniel brought the grace, Ehud brought the grace, Shamgar brought the grace, Deborah brought the grace, Gideon brought the grace. All of them were grace carriers. And a single person brought the grace. Ehud brought in 80 years of grace. Deborah brought in 40 years of grace. Gideon brought in 40 years of grace. Grace comes through a human vessel. Jesus is grace upon grace. And if you want grace, you need to know how to receive the Lord, how to receive the one the Lord sends. Because grace is packaged in that person, not in an institution. You can never get grace from an institution. An institution is a legal fiction. It cannot be the conduit for transmission of grace. So we find that Abraham was a grace carrier. Lot joined Abraham. Lot prospered. Jacob brought grace to Laban's house. Joseph brought grace to Potiphar's house. He brought grace to the prison. He brought grace to the whole nation. Prosperity is connected to the grace upon the grace carrier. The grace carrier brings protection. The Bible says the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. One man protected the whole nation because of the grace that was upon his life. We find when Moses went up to the mountain and the people below went back into idolatry. We find in the book, in the New Testament, Paul says to the disciples, I'm leaving you. When I leave you, wolves will come amongst you. Because my grace of protection will go with me. So the servant of God carries grace to prosper and to protect. The servant of God carries grace to make you a participant in the vision. If the carrier of grace is an apostle, you receive apostolic grace. If the carrier of grace is an evangelist, you receive evangelistic grace. People are highly valued. More than buildings, more than institution. The messenger is the carrier of grace. It's the Shunammite woman who recognized that. She thought, hey, this is a holy man of God. Let me position him above my head. And you know the grace she received. Delivered from infertility, resurrection came into her house, warned of the famine, property restored, all because of grace. And the grace is in the word. The word that the man of God brings places you by Psalms 1. Whatever you do, it will prosper. Your leaf will not wither. The problem is people do not know how to connect, how to get close to the carrier of grace, how to be attached to the carrier of grace, how to receive his benediction, how to covenant, how to invest, how to cooperate, how to honor, and how to receive his doctrine. When you receive that doctrine, you will prosper. And we're looking at a church that will prosper beyond the world. Biologically, psychologically, socially, spiritually. And we need to prosper if we're going to take this message to the ends of the earth.